just use this. Okay, sir.
I get this one.
Hey, why doesn't mine
You need
do
that.
Oh, I knew that.
You need to hit graphing calculator.
Okay.
There you go.
I know this one. Yeah, zoom this up.
All right, so let's get started. Devin should be joining us soon. So I know that he's not here because he is at UA right now, but what's our intern's name for the semester?
Lipham.
Mr. Lipham, all right. And now let's look at our objectives. We'll get started on the review packet and Symbolab. Here, let me go ahead and just get you. Actually, hold on a second.
Are you on Safari?
Kelsey, can you read our first objective for us?
I can use Symbolab to help me better learn how to solve equations and inequalities and simplify expressions.
So, based off that objective, what are we going to use Symbolab for?
To better learn
How to solve equations.
and simplify.
Yeah, don't just say better learn. Better learn what? Solving equations and inequalities and
simplify expressions.
there we go. I do want to quickly point out with that, well, I'll get to that part in a second. So Symbolab is all about algebra for us. It can be used for other things. We'll get to that later. Layla, can you read our second objective?
I can use this, how do you say it, to better.
Desmos.
Desmos to understand better functions, algebraically, graphically, and tabulally, to how each
Command T.
next.
And Desmos and Khan Academy. Alright, so we want to use Desmos to better understand those functions, algebraically, graphically, tabularly, and how each of those representations connects. So, Kelsey, thank you. Alright, so we need to recognize that these different resources have different uses, and pay attention to that. But here's the thing, these are going to help us learn math better, it's going to help us with homework, but if you still don't understand, there's a third resource that we want to pay attention to. Jalea, can you read our last objective for us?
I can use Khan Academy to learn ideas with which I am struggling further developing my
Conceptual?
understanding.
Okay, so here's something I want you to very clearly understand. First things first, not everyone had me last year, but Corell and Shelby, am I teaching everything this year the same exact way I taught it last year?
No, sir.
No, which means I've changed, right? There are things that I realized that were not working as well for my students. So when I ran into failure, I chose to make a choice to grow and to learn. This is the growth mindset. One of the things that I realized was I'm not helping all of my students well in learning how to do their homework and learn from their homework, things like that. So we're going to introduce new resources today, and the only thing I can say is I'm sorry that I didn't do this at the beginning of the school year. But we're going to introduce new resources so that every single one of us can be super successful on homework, better learn in preparation for our test and things like that. Sound good?
Yep.
Using these three resources. Yes, Corell?
So we're going to have laptops every day?
No. So, and I meant to mention this earlier. We will not have laptops in here every day. A lot of the stuff you can do in Symbolab and Desmos, you can also do on the TI Inspires. So we're going to learn how to use those more for the graphing side of things a lot moving forward. But do y'all have TI Inspires at home?
What is TR
How much
Inspires
they cost?
The
for?
calculators.
Oh, no.
A brand new one, because they got rid of that edition. They're on the TI Inspire CX2s. Those are $140, $150 a pop, brand new.
Wow.
However, you can buy them used for well under $100.
You going to help me out with that?
No. I am going to teach you how to use Symbolab, Desmos, and Khan Academy.
I'm not using Khan Academy.
Okay?
I'm not.
All three of them you can access on a computer, obviously. You've already pulled them up. However, if you look on my phone, I actually have Symbolab as an app, Desmos as an app, and Khan Academy as an app. All three of them have apps that you can download and use at home. Okay? If you don't have a computer. They are easier and better to use on computers, but you can get on them on apps. Sound good? We good? Okay. So let's move on to the next part. So the reason why I have you getting your review packets out is this. Here are a few problems from the review packets. Number 8, number 18, numbers 13, 28, and 32. These are 5 of the most missed questions on the review packet, and that we missed certain details. It was one of the hardest for a lot of students. And so we're going to use these to help drive how we understand how to use Symbolab and Desmos and all those things. Does that make sense? Okay? For those of us who are missing resources, or missing assignments, like the beginning of the third 9 weeks review packet, like Devin, Corel, Jalea, and Desiree, you never turned it in, bro. Don't look at me like that. So those people, this will be a great resource, a great day for you to get some information about how you can answer these questions and understand the math better. Devin, do you know what I'm talking about when I say that third 9 weeks review packet? Corel, do you?
Yes, sir.
Do you have it with you?
No, sir. But you got me, don't you, Mr. Kenny? You always got my bag, don't you?
Why are you so irresponsible?
I have to get all of this?
Yeah, that's the packet,
You're
dude.
gonna stapler, Mr. Kenny?
You can get one later, but right now we gotta do math.
I'm about, you're gonna stapler. Let's staple together.
Oh, yes. Do you have this? Okay. Jalea, do you have this? Okay. So, let's look at how we can use these resources to help us learn these concepts better. Now, please notice I've already written them on the board. Let's start with number 32. Number 32 says solve negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6, right? It's in orange, it's on the board. And you can go ahead and jump there quickly.
32.
Number 32.
What's this for? Write it down?
I'll explain it. Okay. I am passing out a piece of paper because what I want you to do is I want you to write down these problems, and I want you to write out a model of what I'm expecting you to do on your homeworks from now on, since I'm giving you the correct answers. So, if I'm looking at number 32, solve negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. Thinking about your objectives, which resource should I go to? Desmos, Symbolab, or Khan Academy?
Desmos.
Okay, so here's Desmos.
It's a graph.
Yeah, is that graph going to help me solve negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6?
Yes. Yes, it is.
How many variables are there, bud?
2.
With number 32, negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. There's one variable, but if I have a graph, how many variables are there?
2.
So is that Desmos going to help me up there?
I think you can make a point.
I think if you remember and pay attention to the objectives, see, this is why we want to pay attention to the objectives. What are we going to use Desmos for? Functions.
Yeah, I understand functions. Oh, algebraically, graphically, and tabular.
Okay, and how those representations connect. Are we trying to understand a function when it's negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6? No. What are we trying to do?
We're trying to solve equations and inequalities.
So where are we going to look to solve equations and inequalities?
Symbolab.
Symbolab. So go to Symbolab. So, really quickly, I do want you to see at the top, you see where it says solutions? Yep. And graphing and practice. Symbolab has a graphing component. You can use it. I think Desmos is much easier to use graphing-wise. They're actually very similar. They're both built off of a thing called GeoGebra, but Desmos is a little bit easier. So, stay on solutions. Looking at solutions, does anyone see anything in this black region that might be really helpful for this class?
Say what?
Looking at that black region.
Oh, we can go to algebra.
Oh yeah, what math are you taking?
Algebra 1B.
Algebra 1B. And click on solutions.
Oh,
So make sure you click on solutions. Once you click on solutions, yeah, you have that option for algebra. Now I want to point this out. Look at that. Equations, inequalities, systems of equations, systems of inequalities, basic operations, algebra properties. Do any of those sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that might be helpful in a math class?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we trying to do? We're trying to work within...
Inequality.
Okay. Now I will say you don't have to hit the inequalities, but
Oops.
it's okay. It doesn't make a huge difference. But I've clicked on inequalities. Now what do you think I'm going to type out in that white bar right there?
Our problem?
when you say our problem, our what? What is our problem in mathematics? What's the name for negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6?
Inequality.
There we go. So type out your what?
Inequality.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm smart.
Negative 2x plus 3.
Where's the negative sign
It's right next to the plus and equals. Yeah, plus and equals. Just
at?
hit
The
that.
smaller one or the bigger?
Just hit it.
Okay. -2x plus.
How you do the
Oh
little,
wait.
how you do the little alligator looking sign? All right here. But how you make it the little part go under?
You mean the greater than or equal to?
Yes, sir.
Don't call it an alligator sign. It's a mathematical term. It's a greater than or equal to. But did anyone look up in this region where there's a whole bunch of symbols?
Yeah, I see. Oh, I see it now.
You see the greater than or equal to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so greater than or equal to
6.
6. Does anyone need help typing that inequality out?
Now it's low.
Alligator sign.
Julie, you get over there?
It's low for
I used
every
to call
skin.
that a low.
Why don't they say the
Yeah,
alligator
like
is
second
bigger
grade.
number?
So negative 2
Yeah,
x
what's the bigger and what's the more?
plus.
The bigger
So hit
number,
shift
yeah.
and
Yeah.
equals.
Before I can't open this page, Miss, can you help me,
3.
please? Miss Kenny.
And then you see the greater than or equal to up there? Okay, so what do you think we're going to do at this point?
No, you go.
Hit go or hit enter.
Yeah, it says far can't open this page. And you hit enter or go.
Enter again.
You messed up, dude.
No, I didn't. Miss Kenny just hate on me. Oh, mine just made everything.
Wow.
Hit shift plus.
Oh, and press go?
Yes.
Yeah.
I need glasses.
What is it?
3.
Oh my gosh, he's telling me the answers, right? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start using this
Oh,
one.
look, it worked. All right, so
Hey, I got it right.
we should have gotten it right because I gave you all the original answers. All right, so here's what I want you to see. This is huge to help you. Notice some of us may have been struggling in being able to get the right answers. And if you're just consistently getting the wrong answer, are you learning the math better?
No.
No. Do you want to put in a whole bunch of time and effort and get the answers wrong?
Yes. I mean,
No one wants that, right? I get that. So here's what we're doing. We now have negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. And it right away tells me what?
It tells us that you need to subtract 3 from it.
Before that.
Oh, it needs the,
Say it, Shelby.
The solution.
The solution. Doesn't it tell me the solution right away?
oh yeah, yeah.
I already know what the answer is. Now, here's one thing I do want to say. My suggestion is try working it out on your own. But can you use Symbolab to help check and make sure you got the right answer?
Yep.
100%. Now, let's say though you look at the answer and you're like, man, I got it wrong. What's immediately underneath the answer?
Steps.
Steps.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
I was saying that part.
Yeah, you were saying that part earlier. So it literally is telling us what to do. Now I want you to remember, think back on your test. Is it enough to just show your work?
Nope, you gotta just.
No, I have
You gotta
to
justify.
justify.
I am giving you a huge amount of help here so that everyone can be successful and get the correct answers. However, is it going to help you understand it if you just write down this thing that they're telling you to do? No, you're just writing down what they say. You're not thinking about it. That thinking is what's going to help drive everything you need to do and understand about this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Now, just Shelby answered. Corel?
Yes.
We good? I can stare too. You good?
Yes.
Okay, Kelsey,
Yeah.
Layla, Devin, Julia, we all, okay. So here's the thing, they tell us to subtract 3 from both sides. Well, they write it a little bit differently than we usually do. We usually just do this notation, same thing though. So that makes sense. But here's the thing, I'm giving you the answers, I'm giving you the steps. You need to justify, why would we subtract by 3?
Because it's both sides.
Okay.
Both sides.
Now here's one thing we need to be careful about. Subtracting 3 from both sides, yes. But that's not what I asked. Before we can subtract 3 from both sides, we gotta know to subtract 3.
Yep.
Why are we subtracting 3?
Oh, because we're doing the last thing done next.
Okay, so the last operation applied. So this is why I gave you all that piece of paper, by the way, guys.
Oh, okay.
So negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. We are creating a model for the justification that I would be looking for, right? I've given you the steps. I've given you the solution. This is the model that we want to use. So negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6, we subtract 3. The last operation applied is what?
Plus
Is
3.
plus 3. And the inverse is what?
Is to subtract.
Subtract what? 3. Now this is important, we do want to remember this. Creating a what?
Creating a simple for problem equality. Just make it easier.
It is, but why is it? What's 3 minus 3?
Disappear.
Oh,
Zero.
what's it called?
It's gone.
Starts with an I.
Okay.
Oh no.
I
Identity.
forgot it.
What'd she say?
It's 1 and 0 identity.
1 and 0 are those identities, right? So we're creating that identity of a 0. So negative 2x is greater than or equal to 3. Is that what they said right here?
Yep.
Okay, so see how that's going to help us keep track and make sure that we're doing it right? Now, I will say this, and I'm glad that Kelsey brought this up earlier. All we've done is explain why we subtract 3. Why did we subtract 3 from both sides?
To keep it equal.
Let's work on that language. Because it's an inequality. We don't want it to be equal.
Oh yeah. It's the property of inequality. What you do to one side, you have to do the other.
Okay, so what we do to one side is what we have to do to the other to make the inequalities stay what?
True.
Not true. We
To
want
make them stay
Equal.
we do want them
equivalent.
equivalent. We want them to stay the same, have the same solutions.
Yep.
Oh, come on, give her a fist bump. She crushed it.
Wow.
You did too, you want it.
Oh, did you say it too?
Yeah, so
Good job, Corell. I'm proud of you.
I'm trying to be funny, Mr. King.
I'm giving you props. What do you mean I'm trying to be funny?
He said, I'm proud of you.
Corell, you did such a good job.
That's a little sus, but
You're a little sus. I was trying to be proud of you, and then you had to go like, oh, Mr. Kenny. Sorry, you're too cool. I'll never praise you again. Okay, so we wanted to keep the inequalities equivalent. Now I'm going to hold off on that detail because aren't we going to have to do the same thing to both sides regularly?
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to hold off on that detail. Now we'll point this out. They have a very interesting step right here. Multiply both sides by -1. Well, I mean, first off, can I multiply both sides by -1? As long as whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, that's okay, isn't it? And they say that reverses the inequality. Is that true?
Yeah.
If we multiply both sides by -1, will that reverse the inequality?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
multiplying by
Because
You're multiplying by negative. Now, I'm not saying that's what I would do, but that's what they said. What would you do?
work it out how Mr. OG King taught us.
Okay, but what is that working it out the way the OG Kenny taught you?
To not complicate it, dividing or multiplying by negatives.
Okay.
For what step are we on? After that one?
Right here.
We would,
Devin, what do you think we would do? Okay, so remember, what am I trying to solve for, Devin? So I want to solve for 2x? Like I want to know what 2x is at the end of all this?
What's on both sides?
Julia, what do I want at the end of all this?
-3 divided by 2?
Well, so -3 divided by 2 is a part of that solution set, yes. But
Yeah.
what's on the other side? What do I want on its own at the end of all this?
Down this one.
The x, right?
Down this one.
I want this x.
Down this one.
So Devin, what's happening to this x right now?
Down this one.
Hey y'all, I'm trying to hear from Devin. I can't hear him. What are you saying, bud? Right now we're dividing? What's happening right now? Between the -2 and the x, there's subtraction? Like it's x minus 2? No? So remember, these are right next to each other. There's nothing written in
It's
between.
being multiplied?
What do you think about that, Devin? Is Julia right that that's being multiplied? So remember, when it's -2x, it's understood to be that multiplication in between. We good with that? Okay. So if we're multiplying there, Layla, what can we do?
We can divide
By?
two,
What do y'all think?
two negatives.
Divide by -2? Hey, look at these steps right here. After they multiply both sides by a negative, what do they end up doing later? Divide both sides by 2. We just decided to divide by -2. Notice though, if we had paid attention over here, would that have given us some help?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we're dividing by -2. So how would we justify dividing by -2? What would we explain there? Okay, so that's the inverse of multiplying by -2, creating a 1.
Yep. I told Chelsea that she didn't believe me.
Wait, what's that?
Then undo
That was.
multiplication by -2 with the inverse of dividing by -2. And what is that going to create? We already said it. A 1.
Is that an identity thingy? Is a one an identity?
1 is the identity when multiplying and dividing. Okay. And then when I do that, I get x is less than or equal to -3/2. Now, we need to talk about a couple more things to finish justifying it. Notice the only thing I've justified is the inverse so far. We good with that? That's the only thing I've justified is using the inverse? Oh yeah, wait a second. You still writing this down, Devin? What part are you struggling to read?
Then undo.
Which part? This? Inverse. Inverse. Sorry for the sloppy handwriting.
Yeah, I know.
Shelby said that's a
I'm
sign
just
of
trying to
smartness.
write
It
this.
is, I read that somewhere.
Shelby said a sloppy handwriting is a sign of smart. So that means I'm dumb.
But when it's
Not true.
What's-
I've known really intelligent people with really beautiful handwriting, and I've known a lot of dumb people with really sad handwriting. Now, let me clarify that, because I don't like saying smart and dumb. People who are traditionally good at school, I've seen with beautiful handwriting, and people who are traditionally not good at school. But there's also lots of ways to be intelligent, so we want to be careful with that language. Yes, sir?
Oh, I was just saying it's king.
Okay, so let's justify though, why are we doing it to both sides of the inequality each time?
Because what Chelsea said, like,
So you don't change the
to keep it equivalent.
yeah.
Okay, so you were about to say the properties of inequality, right? The properties of inequality require that whatever we do to one side, we do to the other to create equivalent inequalities.
Yep.
Okay, so we would want to make a note about that. Those operations are applied to both sides to create equivalent inequalities, right? So I'm justifying that all at once, just saying, hey, look, I'm applying those operations on both sides to create those equivalent inequalities. Those are the properties of inequality. But I do have to ask, why did this greater than become a less than?
Because we
Hold on, someone was saying in the back. Jillian, was that you? No, who was saying it? Oh, Kelsey, go ahead.
Thanks, Gabe.
Because
I got you,
we
Shelby.
divided by negative.
Okay, because we divide by a negative. And so remember, if I don't reverse the direction of inequality, do I have an equivalent inequality?
What?
you said what?
If I don't reverse the direction of this inequality, would this be an equivalent inequality?
No.
No. That's the whole point, right? To get the same solution set, have an equivalent inequality, we have to reverse the direction. So these operations are applied to both sides to create equivalent inequalities. That is also, or let's say equivalency, is why we reversed the direction when dividing by a negative. Now I want you to hear me say this very clearly. This is not the level of detail that I expect every time. This is a model. This is what would score you a 6 on my rubric. You can do less than this to score 5 and 5.5s. Okay? But remember, a 6 on that rubric is you got the right answer and you completely and thoroughly justified it. There was nothing missing. Do you need a 6 on everything to score 100?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. Usually, and I'm not saying every time, but usually average, that's what word I'm looking for. Man, I'm a math teacher and I struggle with the word average. It happens, guys. It's been a long week. The average is roughly a 5.5. I know it's the longest short week ever, right? It's been only 4 days and it still feels like it's been 5 ever. But the average is typically only a 5.5 to score a 100. And so there's lots of play with that, especially with some other like scoring factors that go into it. So you don't have to have a 6, but this would be a 6. Okay? Does this make sense?
Yes.
We good with all this? Now, I do want to point out, do I ask you to put your solutions in interval notation ever? Or do I ever ask you to put it in interval notation?
I don't even know what that is. Oh, yes I do.
Yeah, you do. So there's your interval notation. It's given to you. So what would you have to do?
Nothing.
False.
Justify it.
You have to justify it. Why are there parentheses here? Why is there a negative infinity, a negative 3 halves? Why is there a bracket on the negative 3
Because
halves?
one of them is to stop and one of them is to go. Like one of them is like you can go, you can't equal that one and you can't equal
Okay,
that
that's the language we want to work on. One of them is you cannot equal that value. Another is that you can equal that value or include it.
Yep.
Right? Remember how we get equal negative 3 halves? Bracket.
I don't remember what bracket is you can equal that one?
Okay? If you cannot equal, you use a parenthesis. Parenthesis is singular, parentheses is plural. It comes from Latin roots.
Thanks.
Took Latin in high
Wait,
school.
what'd you say? What'd you say that was?
Parenthesis, singular.
It is.
Because notice, can you ever equal negative infinity?
Oh.
No. Now, I do want to point out, Kelsey brought up a good point. She said, man, Mr. Kinney, I struggle with interval notation. Does anyone know what resource we could go to get help on interval
I'm
notation?
guessing.
Oh, interval? Can you switch back to the, what you call it?
Symbolab?
To the,
She's trying to say Khan
You mean Desmos? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, she's trying
no,
to
to
say
the, objectives.
Khan Academy is where you can go for extra resources on conceptual ideas of why does this thing work.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to show you more about this in a second, but I do want to point out, if you scroll up to the top on Khan Academy,
Wait, I don't know, how do I learn? Do I have to log in?
no, you can use Khan Academy without a login, but you do have a login because you made one at the beginning of the school year.
No, we didn't.
But you can use it without it.
How
We
do you do
didn't, we didn't
that?
make one at the very beginning of school year.
Yes. Just, Kelsey, go to Khan Academy. Do you see the search bar at the top?
Oh, yeah?
What was Kelsey struggling with?
Oh, what's it called?
So, as long as you know the name,
But Khan
type
Academy,
out,
true.
hey look, what's at the very top here?
A video.
Interval notation. Hey look, they have a video.
Man, that dude's voice is fire, bro.
So, do you think that video might be helpful in understanding interval notation better if you're struggling with it?
Yes.
Yes! I am trying to give you the resources that you need to be successful, and so that Shelby can make fun of me when I go, yes! Yes! Okay. Apparently that made Kelsey
You're
snicker.
becoming like me, talking with your hands. You know?
He's always.
I was like, I've always used my hands, it's, you know. Okay, so we have all those resources. Now let's go back to Symbolab. Because here's another thing. What else do I oftentimes ask you to do with inequalities?
Sometimes you ask us to bracket.
I do, don't I?
Yep.
Oh, look! There's the number line.
Oh my god!
What? It's given to you.
Wait,
Whoa, what is this graph?
Scroll down, go back to Symbolab,
Oh,
to
Symbolab.
Inequality. Look, there's a graph given to you.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes,
Can't see.
It's hard to see up here, but you should be able to see it on yours. It's just scrolling down to the bottom.
I can barely
The very, very bottom? On
Uh-huh.
your screen. I see it.
I'll say, if you scroll down far enough, you'll see it. Okay, and so notice there's shading to the left. So I've given you this thing here, and now what do you have to do?
That doesn't justify it.
Justify it. But here's what I want you to understand. Do you have the resources to be able to quickly do, not quickly, but to be able to do your homework?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I will say, is this justifying take a little bit of
I got a
time?
question. So this to help us with our homework?
Yes.
Is it?
But also to help you learn better. Because if you're doing your homework actively, and you're taking the time to justify and think through these things, do you think this might help you learn how to solve this equation, this inequality better?
Yeah, they give you a 6 on the test or a 5.5 or something. Better.
Well, it'll help you, well, so first off, it'll help you learn better because you're having to think through the concepts. But secondly, right, when it comes to the test, aren't you going to have practice justifying more? Yeah, if you're used to justifying on those tests, it'll help you significantly. But I want you to understand, it's not about just doing something, it's about the thinking through of why it's happening. Now, traditionally on homeworks, you would have seen somewhere from like, say 6 to 8, 6 to 9 problems a night. Because I'm asking you to justify, when there's justification like this, I'll reduce the homework problems to 3 to 4. Okay, because the justification takes time, I get that. But we're going to reduce it down to 3 to 4. We good with that idea?
Yeah, you can do it on test too if you want.
I'll pray about it. That's a no. No, so, but here's those resources. But again, let's say you're struggling with graphing inequality or you don't know how to justify this. Where could you go to get extra help on understanding how to graph the inequality?
Khan Academy.
Khan Academy!
This
Woo!
is what I do
I
right
thought graphing was a Demos.
Well, so Desmos helps you graph, but Khan Academy is what you'll find extra information about how to do these things. Now, I will point this out, right? So you can search graphing inequalities, but I will point out, right next to the search bar, what course are you in?
Algebra 1B.
So if I click on courses, what are you going to click on?
Algebra 1A.
Well, where's the bottom?
I don't see an Algebra 1A.
I mean, Algebra 1B.
Oh, an Algebra, I don't see an Algebra 1B either.
Algebra 2.
No, not Algebra 2.
Algebra 3.
1.
Algebra 1.
Oh, yeah.
What's Algebra 1 at?
It's 1B, it's at the very top, dude.
I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at a video right now by Khan Academy.
Well, that's your mistake. It's right there, Algebra 1. Okay, and so I want you to notice if you do click on Algebra 1 and go to Khan Academy,
They're just gonna be talking.
it's not going to start calling yet, but Algebra Foundations, combining like terms, adding and subtracting, equivalent expressions. Man, that sounds really familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yup. Okay, hey, solving equations and inequalities. Huh, okay.
How do we learn how to justify?
Well, you have to understand and you have to practice the justification. That's why I'm having you do that more on your homework.
Oh.
There's not a lot of resources that you can find online that can explain to you how to justify, but that's because, and honestly, a lot of mathematicians just know these things. Really, Corell, are we serious? Turn the video off.
Oh, that's not this thing.
So a lot of places don't require you to justify much right now.